Greetings, YouTube. Today is going to be a philosophical pondering that has something to do with role-playing games and something not to do with role-playing games. I was having a conversation with Slayer, which you go S-A-S-L-A-Y-E-R. I think it's Slayer, or Say Slayer, I'm not sure which. About the whole ruling versus not rules and more complex role-playing dichotomy. And from a gaming standpoint, purely from a gaming standpoint, I don't like ruling not rules because I feel it is opaque and is not transparent. If I have a game which is complete, here's one, all the rules you need to play in one book, all of them clearly and easily defined and referenced by anyone that wants to, I feel it makes the game much more transparent and easy to play because everyone is referencing the same rules. Whereas if you are doing the classic ruling not rules, the rules live inside the GM's head, which is opaque. I can't see them, and even if I trust the GM, they're going to screw up and not make the same call twice. This book will not do that, because all the words on the page will be the same every single time. So from a gaming standpoint, I don't like ruling not rules. But I have felt very, very strongly about that. In fact, irrationally strongly. I found myself viscerally hating the concept of ruling not rules, and I couldn't understand why. I mean, jaw clenching, fist clenching, anger, rage at the very thought of someone telling me that ruling not rules is the way the game should be played. Now, I don't feel that way about, someone tells me they love Hero, I'm like, okay, go have fun. Someone tells me they love Fate, okay, go have fun. Even though I find the entire school of narrative games to not be games, just improvisational theater because people haven't decided they want to go join the community playhouse yet. But I don't feel any emotional connection to those things. People want to play Savage World, have fun. People want to play Fatal, go ahead, play Fatal, I just don't want to know about it. But when it came to ruling not rules, I found myself just enraged about it. And I didn't know why. Whenever I'm angry about something, it's an indication that something's going on deep in my subconscious. And so Slayer, what was interesting, he made a comment that he completely keeps his gaming life and his private life separate from each other. So his world philosophy and his gaming philosophies are completely separate. Now, I'm not sure if that's actually possible, because I'm a firm believer that the warp and weft of our minds is intricately linked, that there is no separation at all. But maybe he can do it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I can't. And everything's connected inside my head. Intimately. And I realized that the reason I was so annoyed and so angry with this concept was that I was hearing that they were projecting this onto their political worldview. And for me, the complete games in my head are the Constitution and Bill of Rights. They're a document that we can all reference. Now, we can argue about it, we can modify it, we can change it, but we are all referencing the same document which is in front of us in black and white, and no one could deny those words are on that page. That is what they are, right there. And that's a beautiful thing. That was a revolutionary thing when those documents were first made. That everyone would have the same document to reference, and everyone would, in theory, be able to use it to live their lives to the fullest. And I am seeing ruling not rules from a political connection inside my head as the endorsement of the unwritten rules. The unwritten rules that we all live by. The cultural unwritten rules. And the hardest thing in the world to change is an unwritten rule. Because they're not written down. They're just cultural folklore, mythology. And in addition, they carry a lot of baggage. A whole lot of baggage. Now I'm going to read a passage here, if I can find it. Here you go. Now this passage deals with racism but it's not something that is strictly limited to racism. Okay, here we go. The problem is that white people see racism as conscious hate, when racism is bigger than that. Racism is a complex system of social and political levers and pulleys set up generations ago to continue working on the behalf of whites at other people's expense, whether whites know or like it or not. Racism is an insidious cultural disease. It is so insidious that it doesn't care if you are a white person who likes black people. It's still going to find a way to infect you, affect how you deal with people who don't look like you. Yes, racism looks like hate, but hate is just one manifestation. Privilege is another, access is another, ignorance is another, apathy is another, and so on. So while I agree with people who say no one is born racist, it remains a powerful system that we're immediately born into. It's like being born into air. You take it in as soon as you breathe. It's not a cold that you can get over. There is no anti-racist certification class. It's a set of socio-economic traps and cultural values that are fired up every time we interact with the world. It's a thing you have to keep scooping out of your boat of your life to keep from drowning in it. I know it's hard work, but it's the price you pay for owning everything. And that applies to sexism. That applies to homophobia. It is a very part and parcel of those unwritten rules, the cultural atmosphere that we are all born into in America. And I hate it. The most dangerous phrase in any language is, "We've always done it this way." It is utterly and absolutely opaque. There is no transparency, and most people can't see it because of this. They can look you straight in the eye and say, oh, there's no racism. They can look you straight in the eye and say, there's no sexism. They can look you straight in the eye and say, there's no homophobia. I treat everyone equally. When that's bull. Because the connections they have with all those pulleys and levers out there are so intimate that it takes a lot of work to disassemble them, to dismantle them, to find them, bring them to the light, and show the world how ugly they are. But most people don't want to do that, because most people benefit in some way from them. And so when I hear ruling not rules, in my head I am hearing someone endorse that worldview. They are saying, I want opaqueness. They're saying, I want this system that makes a small percentage of Americans live really great lives at the expense of all the rest. I am hearing prejudice and bigotry and discrimination. I am hearing a Klan member saying, black people should be slaves. Now, I don't think anyone in the gaming community is saying that. In fact, I have encountered nutbag libertarians. For the most part, I haven't encountered many out-and-out racists, homophobes, and sexists. But that's the connection I was making in my head. I was making the connection between a concept, a model of gaming, and a political model in life. And I fight every day online and in real life against people who embrace the idea that those mysterious cultural myths and folklore is what we should be going by, and we shouldn't be going by a nice, clearly defined set of rules. So even though I may say honestly that I prefer this to ruling not rules, that I consider an inherently superior way of gaming, that's a completely subjective opinion. It has nothing to do with whether gaming is good or bad, or whether someone else should or shouldn't play something. It's just that for me, this is far superior than trusting the opaque rules living inside some GM's head. Even if I trust them with my life, I may not want to trust them with my fun. But it doesn't alter the fact that I was making the connection between those gaming models and the political models that are in the real world. The political models that say that having clearly defined rules like the Constitution and Bill of Rights is something that some people don't like, because that Constitution and those Bill of Rights means that people that they feel should be treated inferior to them have rights and should enjoy the same privileges that they do. There are people who benefit from that cultural atmosphere, that folklore, that mythology, and have benefited from it for generations and want to continue to benefit from it, even though it means standing on the corpses of their fellow citizens to do it. They don't care. As long as they don't look down, they're fine. Of course, they aren't. They're acting unethically and immorally. And in the case of the United States, possibly illegally, if they're violating the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. But that's the connection I was making in my head. So when people were saying, ruling not rules, on some level I was seeing that Klan member. I was seeing that neo-Nazi. I was seeing that male supremacist, MRA, misogynist, championing their cause and endorsing a policy that oppresses any minority, any woman, any gay person, any non-Christian. So that's why I was so viscerally enraged by the concept. So now that I understand it, I need to start dismantling my own connection. I need to start digging into those gears and pulleys and looking at them and trying to figure out how they are connected and how to sever that connection. So while I may still subjectively think ruling not rules is a really bad thing to do in games, I shouldn't have any more emotional connection to it than anything else that is just a hobby. That if someone tells me they prefer one gauge of Toy Train over another gauge of Toy Train, that should not be an emotional trigger. Any more than ruling not rules versus more complete styles of games should be an emotional trigger. But I finally figured this out. It's taken me a long time. And it finally came to a crux yesterday, thanks to Slayer, whose name I'm saying correctly. Finally brought it to the fore. Now, he was very pleasant about it. We didn't even get into an argument. We just were having conversation. We were disagreeing about the point in some regards, but it was all very civil. In fact, he's fascinated because I mentioned that he triggered something in my head, and I was doing a video about this. I was going to post it Saturday. But it's important to understand these things. It's important to understand these things in a cultural context. It's important to understand these in our hobby as gamers, and it's important to understand these things on a personal level. That my being in therapy has helped me to understand how to address these things, how to see them, how to address them, how to dismantle them, so I can have less baggage in my life and I can live a healthier and happier existence. And that's what I want to do. I want to be healthy and happy. And that means understanding why I believe the things I believe, and why I feel the things I feel, why I am enraged by the things I'm enraged at. Because there are times when anger is the absolutely appropriate response to social injustice. I shouldn't be feeling anger about mechanics in a role-playing game. So, this has been a rambling philosophical RPG ponder here. Some people will probably be bored silly. They haven't gotten this far. Those that did, I appreciate it. Thank you. And if you are on the same journey I'm on, if you're trying to understand how you connect to your culture around you, how do you connect to your hobbies around you, how do you understand the worldview that you have inside your own head, and how you find a way of matching up the personal internal and personal external narratives, well, we're on the same journey. I hope you're doing well. And I hope you're making the revelations you need on a regular basis. I suggest reading the Feeling Good Handbook. I suggest reading Deep Survival. I suggest going to see a cognitive behavior therapist. And I suggest, no matter how tough it gets, you don't stop